It started quietly. No press release. No global unveiling. Just a few scattered posts from unknown faces claiming they had received the first batch of Maxwell's MSED units in the United States. The posts were raw, unpolished, almost hesitant. A man from Texas uploaded a short clip showing a small silver device humming beside his garage. He claimed it powered his entire home for 3 days straight without being plugged into anything. Another woman from Oregon posted on an energy forum, saying she no longer needed to pay her electric bill. Her account was quickly deleted. Screenshots spread faster than wildfire. People began asking if this was truly the same technology Maxwell Chikumbutso had been talking about for years, the device that could generate its own power without fuel or solar input. Skeptics dismissed it immediately. They called it another round of exaggerated claims from Africa's most mysterious inventor. But then came a twist. Small energy YouTubers started reaching out to these so-called buyers. A few managed to get recorded interviews. Their findings were shocking. The buyers didn't sound like scammers or paid actors. They were everyday Americans, teachers, engineers, small business owners, all sharing the same strange story. They said they were contacted privately by a US-based distributor linked to a research partnership with Maxwell's team. No big contracts, no flashy website, just NDAs and early access offers. Each participant was told to keep quiet until a certain period had passed. Yet curiosity overcame caution. Soon, whispers turned into confessions. One man from Nevada claimed the device had reduced his monthly energy consumption to almost zero. He said his smart meter readings confused his power company so much that they sent technicians twice to check for tampering. When they found nothing, they simply replaced the meter. Still, the readings didn't change. A family from Ohio said their MSED ran continuously for weeks, powering lights, heating, and even their electric car charger. They said the device was warm to the touch, emitted a low-frequency hum, and seemed to self-regulate temperature. No fuel, no exhaust, no cords. Just a steady pulse of clean energy. Some of them claimed it could be controlled through a basic app interface, one that allowed for energy output monitoring and diagnostics. Others said theirs came without digital controls, only manual dials and a single button. Each model seemed slightly different. That detail led analysts to suspect these were prototypes, not final production units. Still, the consistency in performance made the story impossible to ignore. By early spring, online forums dedicated to alternative energy were flooded with discussions about Maxwell's mysterious MSED rollout. One thread on Reddit hit over 30,000 comments before moderators locked it due to unverifiable information. Journalists tried reaching out to Maxwell's representatives in Zimbabwe, but there was no official response. The silence only deepened the intrigue. Then, out of nowhere, a small local news channel in Arizona aired a short segment showing what they claimed was an MSED operating in a private home. The homeowner demonstrated a microwave, air conditioner, and a set of outdoor lights all running off the unit. The reporter described it as a self-contained generator that doesn't seem to consume any visible fuel source. Within hours, the video went viral. Major outlets ignored it, but millions of viewers didn't. Comments poured in, from believers, skeptics, engineers, and trolls alike. Some argued it was the beginning of a new energy era. Others said it was another internet hoax. But the footage was too convincing to be brushed aside completely. Independent analysts began dissecting every frame. They compared shadows, reflections, even the sound of the device's internal pulse. Nothing appeared tampered with. Experts couldn't explain it, but they couldn't disprove it either. And that's what made it so unsettling. By summer, reports of MSED buyers started increasing. A few claimed to have purchased theirs from private resellers who allegedly imported small batches under experimental use exemptions. Authorities had no record of any official approval for such a device. Yet no one seemed able to trace where the hardware was coming from. Some said shipments were arriving via diplomatic channels. Others believed they were being produced domestically under contract secrecy. Whatever the source, users kept appearing. A data analyst from Michigan shared detailed logs showing his home's power input stayed at near zero for 37 days. He even compared energy fluctuations against the state grid to verify the independence of his power usage. His graphs went viral across X and LinkedIn. The post vanished days later, with his account suspended for unusual activity. People started connecting the dots. Could this be part of a larger testing phase for Maxwell's global rollout? Could the US already be evaluating the MSED's impact before its commercial launch? Theories spread faster than anyone could contain. Some insiders claimed the US Department of Energy had already conducted private tests and was deeply impressed. Others said the opposite, that the government was concerned about the device's disruption potential and wanted to regulate it before mass adoption. Amid all the speculation, the few verified buyers who dared to speak publicly described the same feeling: liberation. They said owning an MSED felt like stepping into a future where energy was no longer controlled by utility companies or fossil fuel dependence. For them, it was not just a gadget, it was a quiet revolution. But revolutions come with consequences. A few users reported that shortly after posting their experiences online, they received anonymous emails warning them to stay silent. One user even claimed a black SUV had parked near his house for 2 days before disappearing. No proof, no names, just fear and uncertainty. This mix of wonder and paranoia fueled an entirely new wave of interest. Tech influencers began speculating that Maxwell's US rollout might be a soft launch, using public feedback to test the technology's reliability. Others suspected it was being sabotaged by vested interests who feared the collapse of centralized energy markets. Whatever the truth, one thing was certain: the MSED was no longer an obscure African invention whispered about in niche forums. It had reached American soil, and people were experiencing it firsthand. Or at least they said they were. Manufacturers of solar panels, lithium batteries, and home generators began to see unusual dips in stock performance after the rumors spread. Coincidence or not, the timing was uncanny. For those who believed in Maxwell's vision, this was proof of change on a global scale. For skeptics, it was a reminder that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And evidence was still hard to come by. No technical papers had been released. No patents published in the US. No verification from independent labs. Just testimonies, videos, and mysterious disappearances of content across the web. By late August, energy researchers began noticing patterns. Each claimed MSED buyer had similar stories but never interacted directly. They were scattered across states: Texas, Ohio, Michigan, Oregon, Arizona, as if carefully selected for geographic diversity. Was this coincidence or an orchestrated field test? Whichever it was, the narrative was building momentum. And when Maxwell Chikumbutso himself appeared briefly in a live stream, smiling but saying little, the speculation exploded once again. He said only one thing that mattered: energy should belong to the people, not to the system. Then he smiled again and went offline. The internet erupted. Was he confirming the rollout? Was he hinting at something bigger? No one knew for sure. But his silence afterwards spoke volumes. Meanwhile, online groups began organizing informal studies. They cross-referenced testimonials, serial numbers, and photos. The devices looked almost identical: matte aluminum casings with black corner guards and a central indicator light that pulsed slowly when active. Some had subtle variations, different LED colors or vent patterns, but the core design matched across all sightings. A few tech hobbyists even tried to reverse engineer screenshots, estimating voltage and frequency parameters based on visible appliance loads. The math didn't add up. According to their calculations, the MSED output exceeded what could reasonably come from a battery or stored power cell of that size. That meant either the videos were fake, or something genuinely new was happening. One university physicist anonymously told an online magazine that the MSED might be using resonant field energy harvesting, a theoretical process combining ambient radio waves, magnetic resonance, and quantum tunneling. He admitted it sounded insane but added, "If what I saw in those videos is authentic, then we're witnessing the dawn of a completely new branch of applied physics." His comment went viral, then vanished within days. Still, fragments of his words lingered in screenshots and mirrors. That's how the legend of Maxwell's MSED entered mainstream awareness, not through press conferences or scientific papers, but through the testimonies of ordinary people who said they had seen the impossible and felt its power in their homes. And as autumn arrived, the story took an even darker, more mysterious turn. Because as more people spoke out, others began disappearing from online spaces altogether. Some accounts that had once been vocal went completely silent. Their posts deleted, profiles erased, contact details unreachable. No one knew if it was coincidence, fear, or something more deliberate. It was as if the digital traces of the first generation of MSED users were being systematically erased. And that silence, deep, cold, and deliberate, became louder than any proof. Rumors began to spiral beyond control. Some said the first buyers weren't just ordinary citizens but part of a hidden pilot program managed by defense contractors. Others whispered that the MSED wasn't merely an energy device but a scaled-down fragment of a classified propulsion system. Unverified documents circulated on dark forums, suggesting connections between Maxwell's lab and aerospace research centers in Nevada. A few even claimed that the humming sound of the MSED matched the frequency signatures of experimental field drives. Of course, none of this could be proven, but the coincidences were difficult to ignore. One anonymous insider allegedly revealed that the US government had confiscated several units under national security review. Another said those units had failed under stress tests, but only because engineers didn't understand how to calibrate the system properly. The contradiction fueled the myth even more. In one thread, users claimed that Maxwell's technology was originally offered to major corporations years ago but rejected because it threatened too many industries. Now, they said, the same corporations were quietly trying to buy back into his vision, this time through shell companies and hidden investors. Some claimed to have seen customs records showing unmarked crates entering ports in California under the tag scientific research equipment. Others insisted that Maxwell had already partnered with American universities to build a commercial-scale version of the MSED for grid applications. But then another theory emerged, one that shifted the narrative entirely. According to this version, the first buyers were never real buyers at all. They were actors in a staged experiment to test public reaction to the idea of free, limitless energy. A psychological operation, some said, designed to measure how the world might respond if true energy independence ever became possible. In that story, the MSED was not yet real, but its shadow was being tested. A test of belief, of perception, of how humanity handles hope. And then, as quickly as the rumors spread, silence returned. Videos vanished again. Websites hosting discussions went down for maintenance. Forum users who once spoke boldly now typed only fragments. It's real. They warned me. Stay offline. Maxwell Chikumbutso said nothing more. Weeks passed, and the storm of attention faded into quiet disbelief. But across small towns and quiet suburbs, lights still burned in houses disconnected from the grid. Neighbors noticed, whispered, speculated, yet no one dared to ask directly. Was the MSED still running somewhere out there, hidden behind curtains and locked doors? Or had the entire phenomenon been an illusion, a perfectly executed rumor meant to distract or inspire? No one knows. Maybe the technology exists. Maybe it doesn't. But the question remains, echoing across every conversation about energy, power, and control. What if Maxwell's MSED really works? And what if someone, somewhere, doesn't want the world to know? Because sometimes the truth doesn't disappear. It just hums quietly in the dark, waiting to be believed.